Buddy, I'm at work. I'm at work right now. Probably like, I don't know, what time is it? Yeah, we got about eight, 8 hours to go. 8 hours to go. So I'm out here with the sign. Nice day outside. Checking in on all of you. Hope all of you are doing great. Great. Now, I want to give you like an update on some stuff I've been thinking about. So, the first thing I've been thinking about is, do I just dump all of my money into cryptocurrency? Because that is so hot right now. However, oh man. Because I just heard last night, that Bitcoin, even though things are like over 90% mined, and I'll explain what mining is again for new viewers, but Bitcoin is like let's call it a valued calculation. Like, wow, you did that really complicated calculation, that really complicated task. I'm going to reward you with this digital value. And you're like, cool. So if you did, let's say this was 50 years ago, and you spent time in some math classroom doing some really complicated math problem, like in Harvard or something. Let's say you were at like some college 50 years ago and you were given some unsolved math problem. Well, just like 50 years ago, they would have paid you a good chunk of money to figure out these unsolved math problems. There's a lot of like calculations that science needs to do, right? I mean, that makes sense. And pun intended. So when you do these like heavy duty calculations, these things are like rewarded. Because I mean, most people aren't doing that kind of stuff. Most people are doing jobs like I'm doing, holding a sign, working at a Pollo Tropical or a Tire Kingdom or a Chili's or a bank or a U-Haul or a KFC or I'm just naming things all around me. So you got these 99% of people are working these regular jobs. They're not doing these complicated math problems. And then fast forward 50 years to 2024, and you got computers doing the math problems now. But yet you really need a complicated computer to accomplish a complicated math problem. And yes, you still get paid when you do all these math problems. Now, we got Assassins 137. So I just found out this week that this friend of mine, Assassins, he spent a good amount of money in upgrading his computer. And I looked up the calculation ability, or what the crypto people call the mining profitability of his computer. And Assassins, if you're still watching, make sure to go click subscribe to Assassins 137. He plays Call of Duty really well. But anyway, he could be making over $30 or 40 euros. 30 euros, $40. I don't really know what it translates. It's in between 30 and $40 euros in his computer ability if he were to start mining. right? Now, what if I were to tell you that the ability for the mining, that's what the halving is. So when people say, oh, there's this Bitcoin halving thing, well, that only applies to what these Bitcoin miners are able to do. So now we're only able to mine half. Now, let me explain this in terms of like kindergarten finances compared to what our governments are doing. So what our governments do is they print more money. They just make more money, right? There's just just more money on the table. They just create more money out of thin air and put it on the table. Now, there's two issues that happen. One is it makes the prices of things go up, but does it really? Because now all the stuff that you have is just devalued because, I mean, they put more money on the table. You know, if they put more bills on the table, well, then everything has to adjust to that. You know, if everyone had a $10 bill and now everyone has an extra free $10, well, people are going to adjust because of that. You know, people that have something for sale, they're going to be like, well, shoot, everybody just got an extra free $10. I'm going to now charge $12. Right? So all the prices of things get adjusted because they know that everyone's got this more money on the table. Now, the difference between Bitcoin and these government currencies is the Bitcoin, when it goes ahead and it does this Bitcoin halving, compared to the government's printing more money, it actually makes it twice as difficult for miners to find that limited supply. And yes, compared to our government currency, there is actually a limited supply. That's what's so great about Bitcoin. People need to understand this. See, Bitcoin is a limited supply. There's 21 million Bitcoin, okay? And they've only mined 94% of it. They've only mined 94% of this Bitcoin. So there's only 6% left to be mined, and that 6% is going to continually get harder and harder to be mined over the next 116 years. So you may think that even though we've mined 94% of this Bitcoin, we must be close to it being finished. It's actually going to get harder and harder and harder and harder to get that last 6% of Bitcoin. And you've got all these people that want it. So that last 6%, everyone's going to be fighting over, right? Compared to the dollar or the euro that they just keep printing. So what you're going to have are these people who are going to say, hey, I recognize that when it comes to certain currencies, there's not a limited supply, right? There should be a limited supply. Okay, there should be a limited supply so we know how much, is on the table, right? If you're just going to keep putting more on the table, that just makes me really uncomfortable, really uneasy. Right? I like knowing that there's an exact amount of money on the table, 21 million Bitcoin. You're never really going to know how much more money they're printing when it comes to the dollars, the euros, and all these other currencies. Right? You're just never going to know how much they're going to print. And they're like, well, there's this guy recently He said, well, I went to this country and it was really difficult to get them to accept Bitcoin. Well, I'm like, it's difficult to get them to accept any foreign currency, which he didn't mention. He's an American going to these foreign countries trying to say, I'm trying to get them to accept Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin from me. And it was really difficult. They're probably broke. You know, lots of people in lots of countries are broke right now. And if they had any money, they would put it into Bitcoin rather than their own inflating currency. Bitcoin is deflationary. Bitcoin deflates over time. It's harder and harder for that money to even be put on the table when it is calculated. So like I said, when our governments calculate to put some extra money on the table, you know, that ruins everything. But when Bitcoin, when they do these calculations, it becomes harder and harder over time for them to even do these calculations. And then there's still that, everybody knows there's that limited supply. And that limited supply is, as it's looking, going to take over 100 years. So all of us that are even watching this video, there's literally still going to be mineable Bitcoin by the time we're dead. That's what's so incredible. Whereas you look 50 years from now, I mean, we don't even know what the hell they're going to do to our currency 50 years from now. You know what I'm talking about? You don't even know over the past 50 years. I don't understand why people don't ride their bike in the bike lane. I mean, why do we have the bike lanes if no one wants to ride their bike in the bike lane? Sorry for that off topic. It's like, you know, I can't be in the sign with a bike lane because then people will look at me like I'm crazy. I can't be in the grass because then no one will see the sign. I need to be here on the sidewalk, but then everybody, they're like, hey, you need to get out of, I mean, only a couple people tell me to get out of the way, but then should I? I do it out of courtesy. There's a couple people that hit me. I love that sarcasm. I'm just, with what little money you have. But then I had this one guy today, he's like, well, crypto's gonna fall. There's like 3 people who say crypto's gonna die. But then it's like, well, you also have the dollar and the euro and every other currency dying. The only thing that's not dying is gold and silver. But then it's just like you try to get people the same as Bitcoin. You try to talk to people with 2 obvious questions that I ask everybody about Bitcoin and I ask everybody about gold and silver. I say, hey, do you own any? And they say no. I'm like, hey, do you own any Bitcoin? They say no. Do you own any gold and silver? They say no. I say, are you gonna buy any? And are you gonna buy any Bitcoin? They say no. Are you gonna buy any gold and silver? They say no. I'm like, do you trust the currency that we have now? No. So we're just in this no society. No, I'm not gonna buy any gold and silver or Bitcoin. No, I don't have any money. No, I don't have any gold or silver or Bitcoin. And here's another, you talk about, no, I don't have any finances or goals in my finances. You talk about what's worse than that. I'll tell you what's worse than that. If anybody's watching, here's the worst part of society today. I say, hey, do you own a gun? Do you own a gun? They say no. Do you have any plans on owning a gun? They say no. And then they think that's it. Then there's the third question. The third question, which is, do you do any self-defense? Do you have any self-defense? They say no. None of these people have a gun. None of these people have any plans of getting a gun. And none of these people have any self-defense training. So what are you gonna do? You don't own any Bitcoin, you don't own any gold or silver, you don't have much cash. You don't have a gun, you don't plan on owning a gun, and you don't have any self-defense. I don't know what the hell any of you are really even doing. Like, those are my top questions in life right now. Like, of course, I want you to have a job. Of course, I want you to have food. And of course, I want you to have some happiness. But other than food, clothing, shelter, and happiness, the other two main questions I ask involve these two topics. Do you own any gold, silver, or Bitcoin? And they say no. Do you own any guns? They say no. And then I say, are you gonna buy any gold, silver, or Bitcoin or guns? And they say no. I'm a little devastated. And then I say, okay. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? So they don't have any gold, silver, Bitcoin, or guns. They don't have any plans to buy any gold, silver, Bitcoin, or guns. And they don't have any self-defense training. I don't know what they're gonna do. What are all of you gonna do when you don't have any self-defense training? You don't have any guns. You don't have any gold or silver or Bitcoin. You don't have any friends. You don't have any radios. There's no cell service. You don't have any canned goods. The banks are closed. The banks won't let you have any cash. You do have cash, but the banks won't let you have it. None of you are gonna be able to do anything. Gasoline is gonna be too expensive. You got, we're gonna say, low IQ people who are actual cannibals. None of you are ready for that topic. People in California and Africa literally eat other human beings. No joke. No joke. They will eat you. They will eat you. They will hurt you without. See, this is this thing between civilized people. I love when civilized people have this like civilized debate over, hey, let's maintain our civility. And then here comes this third world uncivilized person who will literally kill you for your stuff. And you don't have any guns. You don't have any gold, silver, Bitcoin, self-defense. You're dead. I mean, these people, they literally, I'm just warning all of you, like, you gotta have some sort of like backup plan other than your job, other than your family, other than like these regular things. Like, yes, get the regular things, get the roof, the shelter, get the couple friends, get the shelter, get the family, whatever, get the job. But then what none of you have the gun. None of you have the gold and silver. None of you have the Bitcoin. None of you have the self-defense training. Like, let's put it this way. Let's say three guys surround you. You're fucked, bro. Let's say one guy with a gun, you're fucked. One guy with a gun, you're fucked. One guy with a knife, you're fucked. Three guys you're fucked. 5 girls, maybe you could knock them all out. 5 guys, that's a good burger place here in America. 5 guys, I like that burger place, but 5 guys would beat the shit out of you. I've personally been beat up by 2 guys. They even told me what they were going to do before they did it. Now, they didn't kill me. I started screaming. As soon as I started getting beat up by 2 people, I started screaming rape. I started screaming that I was getting raped. And they stopped beating me up. It worked. I guess that's a piece of advice. If you start getting beat up by a group of people, start screaming rape. That may be your best out. But yeah, I mean, other than a gun, if you start getting beat up by a group of people, you're dead. I don't understand what other outcomes you think are going to happen.